When having doctrinal conversations, some Latter-day Saints say that Christians are being needlessly divisive when highlighting certain points of disagreement. Often, these Latter-day Saints will point out that we really should be focusing on what the two faith traditions have in common, not looking so much at the differences. They even point out that Jesus Christ is in the proper name of the LDS Church. Others will explain that Latter-day Saints are Christians too, believing most of the same things that we do, with apparent differences being from additions, not changes, that come from having additional revelation, such as the Book of Mormon. So then, if this is the case, why do Christians continue to focus on the differences between us and Mormons, rather than just happily acknowledging Mormonism to be another denomination of Christianity? Why can't we just focus on the similarities, instead of needing to obsess over the differences? The Pearl of Great Price records Joseph Smith's account of the first vision, the event in which the Father and the Son supposedly appeared to a young Joseph Smith. In this account, Joseph Smith observes that Methodists, Baptists, and Presbyterians were all disagreeing with one another about various points of doctrine. The Presbyterians were most decided against the Baptists and Methodists and used all the powers of both reason and sophistry to prove their errors, or at least to make the people think that they were in error. On the other hand, the Baptists and Methodists, in their turn, were equally zealous in endeavoring to establish their own tenets and disprove all others. Because of this, a young and confused Joseph Smith supposedly turned to God, asking for wisdom to know which of these denominations was actually correct. Was it the Presbyterians? Was it the Baptists? Or perhaps the Methodists? Smith records Jesus' response to his plea. I was answered that I must join none of them, for they were all wrong. And the personage who addressed me said that all their creeds were an abomination in his sight, that those professors were all corrupt, that they draw near to me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They teach for doctrines the commandments of men, having a form of godliness, but they deny the power thereof. To be clear, what this account is saying is that Christians, Presbyterians, Baptists, Methodists are all corrupt, that the doctrines and teachings of such systems are corrupt, that their hearts are far from God, and that they teach the commandments of men. These are strong statements. Christians were put on the defensive here. The doctrines that we hold most dear, that we would die for, were being accused of corruption and falsehood. If Christians are right, then the LDS Church is not true. The first vision was a false vision, and Joseph Smith is a false prophet. If the LDS Church is correct, then the creeds and doctrines that Christians cling to are corrupt, false, they're dishonoring to God. It just isn't possible for Joseph Smith and the LDS Church to be true, and also for Christians to be mostly correct, merely lacking in a couple important details. These clear statements in the first vision create a mutually exclusive division and disunity between the LDS Church and Christianity. So when Christians bring up points of disagreement to Latter-day Saints who claim that they are just like Christians, but with a little bit more teaching and authority and revelation, well, these claims seem disingenuous to us. The LDS Church is built on the narrative that says all of Christianity's teachings, doctrines, and followers are corrupt. There is a significant doctrinal gulf between Latter-day Saints and Christians. Joseph Smith said it himself, and we should not minimize this. We need to discern which faith accurately represents what God has revealed. Both Mormons and Christians need to test the apostles and the prophets, need to examine differences in biblical interpretation and doctrine. We need to diligently look into Joseph Smith's history and see if he is reliable and trustworthy, meeting the biblical qualifications for church leaders. We should not be those who shy away from disagreements, but we need to diligently seek the truth. 1 Peter chapter 3 says, But in your hearts, honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and respect. When Christians point out problems in the LDS Church's history, or when we point to texts that contradict what Latter-day Saints believe, we're doing so because we care about the person that we're talking to. Hell is at stake. If Christians are right and a person dies while rejecting the gospel, there will be no second chances. That person will be eternally condemned on Judgment Day. The stakes are high. We care deeply about our LDS friends and family. We want you to know the gospel, and so we're going to point out our disagreements. We're going to examine the history of the church, examine everything in the light of Scripture, because we desire for you to know the Jesus that the Bible reveals. Why do we constantly continue to preach our very divisive gospel? Well, to paraphrase the Apostle Paul, how can they believe without someone preaching? So while Christians and Latter-day Saints may appear on the surface to have similarities, Joseph Smith said it himself, the two religions are incompatible. To honor our God, we must diligently look into these claims and cling to the truth that is presented in Scripture.